Hey, what's up everybody? BDF 44 coming at you with another video. Alright, so I just got through watching Puffy's apology to all of us in regards to the images that and the footage that took place back in March 16, where he physically abused Cassie, his at the time girlfriend. And his intention was to just tell everybody he's sorry, and he was messed up. Effed up is the word. Drugs. Got himself some therapy, got himself some rehab, and all of that different stuff. And the LAPD essentially came out and said that they would not be charging him for that, statutes of limitations and stuff like that, which I think is kind of, as we can clearly see, a little flawed. When you see a situation like this take place, you realize this person has been free the entire time, and now that he's been outed, he stays free because of some loophole in the law. I think the thing about it is it's understood that he's going to be facing criminal charges from the federal level, so that he's not going to jail on the local level doesn't mean that he won't be doing a lot of time at some point. I think that's what this is alluding to. Many think that the feds are the ones who leaked the tape to CNN. I read somewhere that he purchased the tape himself for $50,000 at the time, so that it would be in his possession. Why he didn't delete it is the question I have. That kind of makes that sound a little strange to me. But nevertheless, that's just my little speculation. I really don't know what the truth is on that. Whatever the case may be, CNN got the footage, and it's all over the internet, and I'm sure most of us have seen it at this point, including myself, who watched it several times. Very disturbed by what I saw there, as many of you are. The apology, I don't think that it's something for me to really take too seriously, to be honest with you. I understand that he has to apologize for that, for public opinion's sake. Obviously, this is a legal situation where he has to try to gain back public support after having it lost in the situation. I saw the night before this footage was released, he had started to post on socials. He had a picture of himself holding his daughter, his small baby daughter. So all of this is just, in my mind, just PR stuff that's trying to gain some sympathy and some grace from the public. What's a little disturbing is how often when you hear Puff speak, he references God. He always has, but he doesn't necessarily adhere to the Lord, it seems. So it's almost like one of those individuals who hearken on religion to, excuse all of the things that they do that aren't any good. We see that in many levels. Cults will do that. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't really buy that at all. And it's unfortunate because he does it often. I call on God, and God, I believe in God. It powers everything I do. Every time you listen to Puff talk, he's mentioning God, but every time we hear about stuff that he's done is some godlessness, or him playing God or something like that in people's lives. The abuse that he placed upon Cassie was not only what we saw in that footage, I believe. What I've been listening to, some of the stuff that's been said about this guy in regards to how he and his team had more or less used their power to sway his will in situations. The list of things that have been alleged are endless, and I believe there's probably more footage of him acting up in other areas, probably with different people than not just Cassie. So for him to come out and apologize in regards to this footage makes me wonder how many more apologies are coming after the next footage and the footage after that, and all of that other stuff is released. I don't doubt that he's not ready to confess anything that's going to ultimately get him put in prison. He's still about self-preservation at the end of the day, as many are in situations like this. Lawyers are obviously, advising him on how best to handle these circumstances. So I don't doubt that they're things that he is expected not to say for the betterment of his own freedom, for the betterment of whatever businesses he's going to be able to hold on to, which probably aren't aren't many in this situation. So, you know, I'm not as naive as to say he needs to get up there and confess everything and tell us everything and all of that. I just don't think that his lawyers, who he's paying a lot of money, are going to see that as making any sense at all for what they're trying to accomplish. But to come out and apologize for this video and what we saw in this video, and to say that you've been, rehab the situation and have, come around to being a better guy, that's not something anybody really believes or wants to hear from him at this point. Apology is always something that can be received well by some, but when you were just a few days ago telling everybody that what's been alleged are lies, you didn't exclude Cassie's point of view. You said everybody, all of this stuff is just egregious. You know, the statement that was released just a few days ago claimed his innocence. And while there are other people coming at him who could be lying, what we saw in regards to Cassie's circumstance should have excluded her from that, and it didn't. So that just leaves him room to look as if he's still lying. On top of everything else that's been alleged, it seems believable at this point after watching that video. So, Puffy, I don't know, man. I'm the guy that prays for everybody. I'm praying for the abused, and I'm definitely praying that the Lord can receive some grace for all of us for anything that we do. The abusers need prayer too. I get that. But when you see a man beating up on a woman like that, I don't find myself having much patience or grace for a person like that at all. As I've told you guys many times, I've been fortunate enough to not be in a household where a man was beating up on a woman or anything like that, but my mother was raised in a household where that type of abuse was prevalent all through her childhood and some through her adulthood, with some of the circumstances that were taking place in my grandmother's household toward my grandmother. So I was raised with a certain level of frustration about that type of thing, raised by someone who has suffered great trauma in that regard. And so for me, I don't particularly have patience for that. As you guys who watch my video know, my mother passed away back in March of 2016. That was when this video around that time took place, same month. So, this hits differently for me when I see that footage, because I know exactly where I was and what I was going through during that time. So it's something different for me. And Puffy, like I said, man, I don't doubt that you're sorry you got caught and that all of this is being released. I don't doubt that you probably did go and get some type of help. I'd like to think that you have, but the reality is, even if you did, now we are aware of what you did, and we want an entirely different consequence than what you've received over the last 8 years. And I speak for myself and anybody who wants to see guys like that face what comes with that. I'm in agreement with some of the people who've talked about this. I'm just going to double back to that law in our state that allows for a certain time to pass for stuff to not be charged or tried. I just don't think it's safe. I think you're opening the door for people to retaliate when they find that justice isn't possible. That's what it really comes down to. Obviously, Puffy has still the means to protect himself from any and all local issues that would come with somebody's father coming back and wanting to do something to Puffy. He got security guards. He fly off to Bali or something, whatever he wants to do to get away from that stuff. But I think the law itself is very flawed in the sense that if you're not going to take justice into your own hands, America, law, lawyers, and system is who I'm referring to, then local people will. You know what I mean? If the system isn't going to try these people, then you open the door for the Joe Blow down the street to enact street justice, and that's what ultimately ends up creating more opportunities for bad things to happen outside of what is intended. Somebody come by and want to do something to the person who did something, accidentally hit somebody else if it's a projectile weapon, or accidentally rope somebody else into the nonsense. It can just be an environment for which other bad things are enabled by that event. And so it's on our system to try these individuals, regardless of how long it takes for these things to occur, for them to have lapsed. however long it's been, I don't think that statute of limitation crap should apply to violent crimes. I don't think it should apply to violent crimes because of many reasons, but one being, if you ain't gonna take care of it, Joe Blow may, and then that creates another problem. A lot of stuff can go wrong there, and I don't need to paint the picture out any further. What else can happen? Other things can happen. Joe Blow ain't exactly very efficient or trained in my mind's eye when considering this type of stuff, nor is he balanced at all. So it's like you open the door for crazy stuff to happen. But and so that's really what it comes down to, man. I just think our government needs to take a look at that. Take a look at that particular rule in this state and many other states where that's happening. A guy should not be able to commit something violent and then 8 years later, when it comes out, walk the streets free. That, I think that creates an entirely different dynamic that should never be possible. So that's really what I got to say, man. For the betterment of Mr. Combs' safety in that place, in that situation, as well as the safety of anybody else that may be standing around Mr. Combs. Mr. Combs should be in custody, straight up. That's what I really believe. He should be in custody, within no position to be touched or to touch anybody else. And that's another thing. And now this comes out. Let's say Mr. Combs isn't as powerful and famous as he is. What does he do? What is his mindset now? Is he going to turn around and abuse the person who abused him for letting this be out? You know, for whatever, you know, how he views it in his head? That's the type of stuff that you also leave room for. It's like, do we understand that this is a situation where this is an abusive person now being outed for being an abusive person? What's the reaction to that? Hands off? You know, do we expect that person's going to be kind now? Or are we expecting that in this space of being outed for being an abuser, they're not going to go forward and abuse more? How much abuse has he enacted since over the last 8 years? How many times do you think he's been violent since then? Now that he's been able to get away with it and have been silent for 8 years. You know what I'm saying? That whatever it is that allowed for him to walk the streets for the last 8 years, let's just assume this is the only incident of that. If this was the only incident that took place, other than the other stuff that's been alleged, am I to assume that he never did it again? Or am I to assume that since he got away with it, he probably been doing it ever since? I single out Mr. Combs because that's what we're talking about, but really it's the idea of anybody being able to get away with something for this long. Or to know that after 8 years, they don't get arrested for it. Oh, I can't be arrested for that? Oh. That empowers them to continue to think that what they did is fine in a lot of cases. That empowers them to do it even more. Because they can't get caught for it, or they got away with it, or it speaks to a depraved mind who would do something like that the consequences aren't to be feared. Send the wrong message. And so I really think that's flawed in nature. I don't know if it's deliberately flawed in nature, because a lot of times these lawmakers are the ones doing the worst stuff, so they want to make sure life is easy for them, so they work it into law. But that's another one of those cases where I just know better than to think that that's effective in any way. It's not at all effective. So yeah, man. And domestic situations need to be handled a certain way. You know, as I said, there need to be more places, safe places for people to report their abuse and being monsters. If they're monsters, they want to change. There has to be more safe spaces for which it's possible for that stuff to be in dialogue. Because at the end of the day, there are a lot of people who really need help, who aren't getting help, both abusers and abused. There are a lot of people out there not getting help, and the reasons behind it is because how the system handles it. You can't say certain things to your therapist without them reporting it to the police. You can't, that type of stuff. I really think that's insanely ineffective in preventing these circumstances from happening. And I think it may be deliberate. Again, same copy and paste statement I just said, some of the people who are doing this stuff are in positions of power. And so they want to cover their backsides and make sure they stay free to continue being the abusers that they are. And that's what the rest of us need to think about when it's time to vote for legislation. And those of us who create legislation in these places, y'all need to be thinking about how some of these co-workers and some of these lawmakers are, in fact, some of the abusers and all of that. So, yeah, we need to get smarter in that way. Stop letting these people slip through the cracks and stay free to continue to be the abusers that they are. Powerful people like Puffy, etc., who have probably a whole ring of people around them that will keep them free for the sake of their own interests. Selfish individuals that worship money and worship power, worship fame. Those individuals need to be held accountable to the highest order for their part in keeping this stuff suppressed, so that we can deter this type of abuse on high. And some of those people, if you dig into their closet, you probably find they're some of the worst human beings in the world, who happen to slip their way into positions where they have powerful people around them. So I just think that the law needs to come down on these type of people hard. All of y'all who be gatekeeping and turning the other cheek and all that, y'all need to, whatever the world is doing to you in regards to laws and how they come down on you, it needs to be significantly harder. All of you abusers, enablers, y'all probably should go to jail for the same amount of time those abusers are, because you're enabling it. And it can't happen without your help. It can't happen without your looking the other way. I just think there needs to be much more against people like that. Yeah, much more. Because I think that's one of the reasons why you have such powerful people getting away with so much, is because the punishments for those who enable it, the punishments for those who are enacting the nonsense around them to keep them in positions, they're not come down harshly enough. They're not. A guy like Puffy had his lawyer, from what I understand and listening to content yesterday, his lawyer was contacting Cassie, telling her it was in her best interest to answer his phone calls. Some of his officials, people who work for him, were calling her up saying, if you don't do this, if you don't answer his phone calls, we're not going to release your single. Yeah, those are the type of people that hold a powerful abuser up, that holds a powerful person in a position to have all the power that they do. It's why their power works so well. It's because of complicit animal-like indifference that comes from people like that. You know what I mean? Just don't care nothing about nothing but what it is that they're doing. I'm trying to move up the corporate ladder, so if this guy's an abuser, I'm going to enact all necessary to make people fear him. Yeah, those are the people that need to be in jail for a very, very long time. Very long time. Because the punishment ain't harsh enough. It ain't for those people. They keep on allowing this type of crap to happen and keep on letting these powerful people stay in position of power because of their actions and because of their indifference. It has to stop. It has to stop. So hopefully this is one of the last years we hear about stuff like that, where Puffy had so many people complicit in allowing him to stay the person that he was, not getting the help that he needed, or being held accountable for the actions that he was engaging in. You know, people who would set up this or let that happen or pass that through or whatever the case may be. Those are the people that I really think are just as responsible for his actions as he is. So yeah, come down on those people a lot harder. As many people would be fine if it wasn't for those people's actions, who are not fine right now. And that's what we know. And it ain't just Puffy, it's many others. A great many. And we hear about these circumstances once in a while where these big superstar celebrities or these big wig billionaires are able to do so much. It's because of the power that those others are around them, people that work for them, and people that they pay off. It's about their efforts, really, and keeping them in a position to do that crap they do. So that's my opinion. I hope I'm influencing people to think twice about getting involved in some stuff like that. If the punishment is going to get worse for people like that, then you need to weigh how much it matters to you to continue to do it. And that's really what it's about. We want to deter that. We want to expose all these people. We want to make it harder for these people to get away with what they're doing. We want to make it harder for them to do what they're doing. Because at the end of the day, people are being victimized, and powerful people are going into their graves without ever being exposed for being the lifelong abusers that they are. And while I'm happy that Puffy is being exposed, there are a great deal of many else who are not being exposed, probably some of which who are part of the exposing of Puffy for their own benefit, while they sit in the shadows and do worse and affect more. So that's something I'm fathoming. I'm putting it in this camera. So that's what I gotta say, man. Puffy, you know, man, your apology falls on deaf ears, brother. I don't care for none of that. You said you were disgusted then, and you're disgusted now. I saw you were disgusted with her, and that's why you were doing what you were doing and abusing her physically the way that you did. So when you play word semantics with me, I'm just gonna assume you're disgusted with her now. That's how I took that. You say I was disgusted then, I'm disgusted now. You were disgusted then with her, and you're disgusted now, let me guess, with her. That word semantic crap don't work on a real poet like myself. All I would say is, if I'm Cassie's husband, you're going to have more problems if you try to touch her again. I'll tell you that. This ain't going to be a situation where you slapping her around if you ever see her again. You're going to be lucky to walk away if you see her again. You better have a lot of security around you in that situation. I'm speaking for myself. Obviously, I'm not speaking for him. I'd like to think he's a much more balanced person than me in situations like that. They got a new family with 2 babies. They're doing well. But I'm telling you, his word salad, when he says the word disgusted, I know who he was disgusted with in that footage. It wasn't himself. So when he want to put that out there, my brain says that's a threat. My brain says read through the word salad and see who he was disgusted with then, and he's saying he's disgusted now, still disgusted with that person. And so that's where my head go. I could be wrong, but people like that, when you do stuff like that, when you say stuff in that way, you need to understand there are brains like me out there who are gonna take it that way. We ain't gonna look at that surface crap you want us to look at. We gonna read through the words, and we gonna see what you really saying there. So yeah, man. And then you think about the Kim Porter situation, and how that went down, and you wonder if she actually succumbed to something natural, or was it just a last form of abuse from this man that ultimately put her with the Lord at this point. So I don't have any faith in Puffy's apology was real. I don't have any faith in the energy behind that man at all, man. And like I told you guys, in either the video I deleted or not, I'll say it now just in case it's not captured. I did not like seeing him holding his daughter after seeing him using those same hands to beat up Cassidy. It ain't sit right with me. I'm just being honest with you. I don't particularly think hands that beat up on women are safe places for babies. I really don't. You slapping and beating the hell out of a woman, and you want to hold a baby, like in my presence, I'm just gonna assume that baby's gonna be abused too. That's how I think. So I don't want to put nothing out there that ain't true. I ain't trying to put a jacket on that man that ain't true, but made me uncomfortable seeing him hold his daughter after watching that footage. So some of y'all who want to beat up your wives and all of that, you need to think that people like me are thinking that about you too. How safe is a child in your hands if a woman ain't safe in your presence? So that's my position, man. I don't have no patience for abusers. I think they all need to get help for themselves ahead of time before they enact that nonsense, and their teams and the people around them and their friends need to hold them accountable, or justice should hold those friends accountable just like they hold those abusers accountable. That's my point of view, man. So I just wanted to give some feedback on that, man. Follow up on that. Puffy, bro, I'm telling you, if he would happen to see this video, you need to be somewhere where people can't get to you. Seriously, this ain't the time for public opinion changing nonsense, none of that. You need to be somewhere where you need to be in solitary confinement, or in a jail away from public. Because I'm telling you, bro, you, those apologies fall on deaf ears. We saw what happened there, and we believe more took place. And all the other stuff that's going on about you trying to abuse both men and women in a different way, in a sexual way, all of that stuff is grounds for violent men to be violent toward you. I'm just being honest. There's a lot of people who are angry at you, brother. Angry at you. They see the abusers in their lives through your eyes. So while you sitting up here trying to apologize, you need to understand that. You need to stay away from people. This ain't the time to really be in nobody's camera. People see where you at. None of that. You don't need none of that. You need to stay away from others. And continue to get the help that you say that you've been getting. That's literally it. Because all this trying to get back in the good graces of people, believe me, you ain't. You not. You didn't show no mercy to that girl in that footage. And then we start thinking about all the stuff that's being alleged about your name. And it's going to be a lot of unhappy individuals with you. So that's what I would say to Puffy if you would see this video. If you're going to get right with God, you need to do it for real. But, I'd imagine that only he knows if you really mean what you say when you say you're for God. But I can tell you this. From my perspective, it looked like you be using God to enact the nonsense that you do. It seems like you do that to use him as an excuse to make people believe that you're a good person while you play God, just like many other evil individuals out here and groups out here. So I ain't really trying to hear it. I don't speak for God, but I'd imagine that the God I know ain't too happy with you at all. And you saying to us that you serve him while doing this doesn't help. That's my point of view. So, hey, that's it, man. That's it. And to all you abusers out there, man, get help, brother. Get help, sister, whoever you are. If you know you got that demon in you that wants to hurt people that can not defend themselves, you really need to consider the example of what we're seeing here. Because this man, Puffy's going to fall hard. And then we're going to start looking at how he was able to be propped up this long. And then we're going to start turning our attention to why that was possible. So if you're doing that, don't be so sure that you're going to get away with this stuff going forward. The world is going to change. It's going to change. This is a very powerful man we saw doing very horrible things to someone who couldn't do nothing to him. And so that's really what it is, man. And to Cassie and her husband, prayers out. Stay in a space of happiness. You know what I mean? That man can't hurt her anymore. I'm very happy about that. To the other victims, alleged victims out there, I believe you. Now that I've seen this footage, I believe you. The other Asian girl that was saying he did this, that, and the third, I believe you. Because I saw exactly what type of monster was in this individual, and so did the rest of us. I'm not the guy that says believe all victims, because some people really do lie. But to pick and choose who to believe is not something I know how to do. It's frustrating, but I can tell you this. What I've seen tells me what's inside of that man. And so those who are accusing him of doing whatever, I'm inclined to believe you straight up. And that's unfortunate for Puffy, because maybe there are a few people lying on him, but what can I say, man? I saw the demon. I saw it. And so that's really what it is, man. BDF 44. I thank you all for watching. I'm out.